The highlights for me in this movie, I guess, are Ray Fisher, who hasn't done much before and probably won't do much after, if I read the news correctly.
I mean, maybe not with Warner Brothers, but it seems...
Yeah, definitely not with Warner Brothers.
I would hope that at least...
And good for him.
Good for him, and also, like... I don't think either of the movies do a good Cyborg story, because I think that the honest truth is that they should have just made a Cyborg origin movie, because I think there's a really interesting Cyborg story in this movie, and it's a bummer because I do think his performance is kind of getting ignored, but especially in this cut after Joe Morton dies, like he gives some really powerful emotional performances, and even in the 2017 cut of the film, I do kind of like his Cyborg. I think his Cyborg, I think
he's good no matter what.
I know he hates sort of like the booyah kind of like line at the end, but I don't mind the booyah.
Yeah,
like the booyah doesn't bother me, because let's be fair, Aquaman has my man, and he says that still in this movie, so it's not like the 2021 version is void of catchphrases.
No, and it's not... Well, I don't know. I don't think it's the catchphrase thing. I think it's the odd racial implications of the catchphrases that, like, well, there's one black guy, so we're going to have him say booyah. And, I mean, when...
I don't think I ever really looked at it that way, but okay.
I mean, I'm even a little critical of the term my man, just because it's like... the what's the right way to say it? The pattern of police officers in this country who, while trying to pretend to show respect to black people, they call them like my man, or like this gentleman over here, like these ways of like trying to seem super friendly while I'm still actively profiling you.
Right.
Is like a clear pattern of behavior of police officers in this country. So like when they're like, oh, like my man, but I don't know, it's like it's a person of color to a person of color, so like who the fuck am I gonna say it? But like it's always just a term that feels so loaded because I hear white cops say that shit. And so like I feel like maybe that was the booyah issue, that it's like, well, I don't know, the black guy's got to say something, so let's give him booyah.
Oh no, I think booyah is associated, I hate to say this, but I think it's kind of associated with the character in the cartoon series. Like,
oh, well, that's a bummer then.
Oh, well, I kind of was aware that Teen Titans Go existed, and I thought, I'm correcting me if I'm wrong, listeners.
I mean, I don't know the greater stuff, so like...
I think that is something that character was kind of like one of his catchphrases, and I only read it as that. Like, the thing for me is both of these movies are cartoons. One, to me, is a very drab, bland, gray-looking cartoon. And one is a very colorful, vibrant, interesting cartoon, and I think that is the 2017 version, and I think that, you know, that booyah line is just the presence of the fact that these are cartoon characters. These are
maybe I'm overthinking it.
Yeah, they're fighting like a CGI monster. I mean, it's interesting. You bring up an interesting point, but I think that's how I interpret that line.
I could totally be overthinking it, yeah.
But I've heard people sort of like speak poorly of that line, and going back to just Ray Fisher, you know, it seemed, I really hope that he gets to do more performances, because it seems like he's really doing something interesting with Cyborg. I fucking want a Cyborg origin story. I would eat that up. Joe Morton, bring him back, go prequel, like, cool, do that.
Yeah, I would watch that.
I would love, well, I guess you actually can't, because they kind of shoehorned his like origin story into this now. But
and I think his origins, I mean, we're not going to get it because Warner Brothers doesn't want to work with him anymore, and he stood his ground and has pulled, you know, like he stood his ground for like a year and a half before Gal Gadot finally chose to speak up about threats that Joss Whedon had made on set, and he was like, yo, like, talk to the other people. This was bullshit. No one can deny it. And everyone was kind of, you know, we support Ray Fisher, but no one was really saying anything. And then, like, recently Gal Gadot finally spoke up about it. And it's like this dude was really standing by his laser arm guns, and whatever kind of, like, smear campaign or distraction campaign Warner Brothers has run, like, his career is going to be what it is, but at least he's like kept his self-respect, and I really admire it. No, and I would love to see him act in more.
Yeah, I know, and I hope that he will, because I do kind of feel, I don't know, maybe this is an inappropriate thing to speak on, but it does feel like the culture is kind of on his side. And if Warner Brothers sort of has this feeling of like, hey, we're not going to work with this person anymore,
I bet someone fucking would.
I think they might have some people that are going to be upset about that shit.
You're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. You're right. The culture is absolutely on the side of the person who is being like obviously like trying to be silenced and disenfranchised by a big company, and everyone sees it. You're absolutely right. It's a very sympathetic position.
And I don't want to comment on anyone's personal life, but it does seem like the chips are kind of stacking against, and just because I did do kind of a kind of like, what would you say, a brief dive, because I wanted to kind of read up on the history, because I honestly didn't really know specifically what all the actors were saying, and it does sound like they're still being very vague for the purposes of, I assume, protecting people's identities, protecting people's positions. Like, there's a reason why the actors aren't just coming right out and saying what was happening.
Right.
But with like all these actors on this movie, with like the various actresses and actors from, or just crew members from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and other movies, like, it seems like the evidence is mounting in a certain direction, and it's
a bummer.
It sucks that there are just such power hungry people, because it really does, and maybe I'm reading into this too much, but it really does seem like that kind of is this situation where a person came into this project who already kind of had some, what would you say, he likes power, and he likes to like lord it over people, clearly, and that's clearly what happened here. And I'm glad they're speaking out about it, because it's not violent, maybe it's not like as bad as some other people we've experienced in the news, but it's still fucking shitty, and is still awful, and it's terrible that any of them had to put up with that.
And it's abusive.
And it's abusive. It's emotionally abusive.
It's abusive. It's still abuse. Yeah.